Hey folks, Jonathan here. Alright, start back on the truck now. It's time to see what we can get done. Alright, so this thing, it's almost as complicated as an old steam engine. I think what we got to do, trying to figure out what I'm going to do on wiring. You know, I was thinking about using the 4080 wiring out of the other truck, which would work. And then I found out that the throttle listener sensors work from 0 to 5 volts, that I could wire it in, it would work fine there. What I run into though is the other truck don't have a regular throttle positioner sensor because it's electronic control, and even though it's a 94, Dodge didn't go to that until like mid-year 98. So that shoots us to where we can't run the wiring harness out of the dually with 6.5. Okay, the problem with this cab wiring is it's a 4L60, but I found out that you can splice a couple wires and run the speed sensor and actually run a 4080E with a 4L60E wiring harness, and then we could run still run the throttle positioner sensor on the right wires, and then I think we could get by with it. So I think what we may end up doing here is running the original harness. So we're I'm still studying on it, working on it. We're going to get it one way or the other, but I think now we're going to go ahead and start getting other things hooked up. Got shifter to hook up, and master cylinder and transmission lines. Got a lot of stuff like that to get done. Power steering lines. Got to do something on our exhaust, and we're going to cipher on it a little bit, and we'll definitely get it figured out as we go. I mean, whether we're going to use the harness off the gas 305 or 350 engine, whatever was in it, and use the harness that's in this thing, or what we're going to do. So either way, I mean, we could run this harness that's in it and run a standalone for the 4080, but that might not be the way I want to go. So either way, we'll figure it out, and I'll show you as I go. Okay folks, here's what we've got. This is the dash out of the 1-ton with the 4080. This is the dash out of our good truck, and we're putting the harness. Here's our old harness with stereo. That's our old harness with for the 1/2-ton gas truck. And this is our new harness that we just laid on top of here for our 4080 diesel truck. Okay, what I plan to do, there is a plug right here. This plugs to the gas pedal. Okay, it's a fly-by-wire. There's 3 TPS signal switches in that pedal. So we're going to have to use the correct wires coming from here to go to the TPS on the Dodge engine, the Cummins. It's the same thing, 3-wire with 5 volt, 0 to 5 volt, so should work. That's the plan. So we're going to get to putting this harness in this dash, getting everything how we need it, and putting it back in the truck. And I'll show you what it looks like with the harness out, or with the dash out. You still got the heater harness in. We still got the power wind harness running across, a few other little things. All right folks, a little update on the truck here. Had somebody stop by and look at this, and they couldn't believe how much better this paint job is than what it looks like on camera. This thing is slick and shiny, and looks really good. Got pollen on it. Okay, so all the wiring is back in. This panel is broken. Someone's tried to glue it before. I think I'm going to drill it and put bolts through here, little screws through, to hold this panel piece on the back of the panel, because they want $125 for that used, and that's just crazy. And so I'm going to show you what we've done, and some of this stuff might be a little trial and error. And we went through the harness. The plan was, okay, I'll explain it how this works. This harness we put in this truck is a 4L80 harness out of a 2-wheel drive, and we've got speed sensors hooked up, transmissions hooked up. I put the new wiring harness in the transmission where it was burned on the end. We got 2 new speed sensors on the transmission, or 2 used ones. Should be fine. We've changed I've changed the entire wiring harness in the dash, and including the speakers. Someone had cut the wires and put different style ends on so they wouldn't plug into the factory speaker, so I had to use the aftermarkets out of the other truck, or I did use the aftermarkets. Most of the engine is wired up. We've got the oil pressure gauge, the temperature gauge, everything is wired. Well, the sending units are out of the 6.5 diesel, so it should work fine on this truck. Let me see, I pulled the entire dash, I think I showed that, and changed the wiring, put it back together. So everything should be fine, except for maybe one or two things. One thing's going to be cruise control. The way this worked, because this had a full electronic pedal with no cable to operate the injector pump, it was electronic, that it all worked through electronics. The problem is this truck cab is set up for regular, and we're not going to have the electronic injector pump on there. So what it comes down to is we may not have any cruise control, and if he wants it, he can add it on. Do an add-on cruise control unit, which we may be able to get the half-ton unit in there, but we'll see what I ended up doing. So as you can see, there is a TPS. So this is a throttle positioner sensor for a truck without a cable, and I used it because it's got 3 switches inside of it, and they operate 3 different things. One of them is, of course, the injector pump. One of them is for a shift in the transmission, and I think there is a redundant one for the throttle also. So I think there's 2 in there for the throttle. But instead of figuring out the wires in which they were and then rewiring it to the TPS on the Cummins injector pump, what I did was make a bracket, and I've got the switch in, and that's the original location of where it would mount, except it's over about 1 inch, so I can bypass and clear everything. And I've got an original pedal in it, and then as you can see, there's play right here, but I've got a what is called a cam follower, or a roller bearing there, and when this pushes down, it pushes both pedals at the same time. So, and we're getting exact travel because it starts at the beginning. We just got to make sure we adjust the cable right, so we can still use our stock cable to be able to go to the injector pump on the Cummins, but we've got the sensor working off of here to be able to tell us where the throttle position is at for the transmission to change. So that should work, and we'll see. I mean, this is, like I said, this is not new technology, but it's just, we're just trial and error, trying to do, you know, something a little different. And we'll see how it works. If it don't work, you know, it's pretty simple to take the wire and unplug it and figure out which wires need to go to the TPS, which I'll show you where it's at on the Cummins. The TPS is right here on it. I think you can see it. So when the throttle moves, this switch just tells it where, you know, where the position's at, where it's at. So anyway, no problem. We got a fuel solenoid we got to wire up yet. One wire's got to go to the start, solenoid side of the starter, because it actually just it's the white wire, and actually just that's what activates the solenoid, and then the red wire is what holds it down. Now it'll hold down on the white wire, but I believe it would burn up eventually. So we're going to run the white wire over there for temporary, momentary, and then this will get hooked into the key switch to run, and then of course the ground. So no issue there. I've got a thermostat coming for the engine to control the fans, and I think we'll put it right here where we're going to run it at, and I think it'll be fine there. And then most of the stuff is wired up. We've got our sending units, like I said, for the 6.5. A lot of little stuff to do yet, but most of it's, you know, wired in. Alternator's wired up, starter. It's not, you know, that big of an issue. It's just time consuming. There's a lot of wires you got to extend. We hooked a glow plug relay up to the manifold heater, which you really don't need around here, but we hooked it up anyway, so it should do okay. Like I said, I'm going to try this power brake. We can change it. We decided to go to hydro boost. We'll see. And I've got transmission harness is done. The headlight harness, of course, can't do because the clip's got to be on it first. This harness down here on the ground, this is the rear taillight harness. It burned it up to about right in here, and so it's fine back farther. So I'm just going to go back farther and we'll solder it all together and make sure it's good. But I think everything else is going well. We're waiting on parts, waiting on a throttle cable long enough off of like a 6.2 or early 6.5 diesel, non-electronic. So as soon as that cable comes in, I can make my brackets for that. Waiting on the thermostat switch for the fan. We've got all the wiring harnesses through all data, so it's not, you know, it's not this. Everything's just laid out there, so it's not really that complicated. Just knowing what some of the stuff does is what, you know, the problem is. But we've got it all figured out. Like I said, we'll see how this works out, and I'll probably wire the mechanical cruise control up and just see if it does work, and it may not work, but that's what this wire, two extra wires here are for, and everything else is hooked up just like it's supposed to be. So should work out. A lot of work, a lot of time, but that's okay. So we've got a couple days waiting on parts, so I think I'm going to work on a steam engine, so maybe we'll do a video on that now. All right, appreciate everybody watching, and until next time. And there will be one more video on this, and that'll be it. So, bye.